It all came down to a pizza box. A simple, greasy, discarded pizza box, tossed without a second thought into a bustling Manhattan trash can. For more than a decade, a ghost had haunted Long Island. A phantom who stole women from the fringes of society and left them in the reeds like forgotten secrets. Police had followed countless dead ends, chased whispers and shadows, navigating a labyrinth of false leads, while the families of the lost waited in a special kind of agony, the torment of silence. They had no face, no name, no discernible motive, but they did have his DNA, a microscopic breadcrumb on a trail that had long gone cold. And there, in that pizza box, on a leftover crust he had chewed, investigators finally found the mitochondrial match they had been desperately seeking. A genetic key to unlock the identity of a monster hiding in the most mundane of places, a quiet suburban home with a picket fence. Our story begins not with the killer, but with the land itself, a character in its own right. Ocean Parkway, a thin ribbon of asphalt stretching across the barrier islands of Long Island, New York. It is a line drawn between two worlds. To one side, the manicured lawns, bustling life, and perceived safety of suburbia. To the other, the wild, windswept dunes and dense, thorny thickets bordering the vast, indifferent Atlantic. It's a place of stark, beautiful, and desolate contrasts. And in the winter of 2010, it officially became a graveyard. Police were searching for a 24-year-old woman named Shannon Gilbert, an escort who had vanished after a frantic, terrified, 23-minute 911 call from a client's home in the insular, gated community of Oak Beach. "They're trying to kill me," she screamed, her panic palpable through the line. During that desperate search for one missing person, a police officer and his canine partner, specializing in human remains, stumbled upon a skeleton wrapped in weathered, disintegrating burlap. It wasn't Shannon. Within days, the grim discoveries multiplied. 3 more bodies were found, all women, all within a quarter mile of each other, all wrapped in the same coarse, camouflage-patterned fabric. They would become known as the Gilgo 4. Let's put a face to the names, because they were never just headlines. They were daughters, sisters, mothers. There was Maureen Brainerd Barnes, a 25-year-old mother of 2 from Connecticut, who disappeared in July 2007 after taking a train to Manhattan for work. There was Melissa Barthelemy, a petite 24-year-old from Buffalo, who vanished in July 2009. After she disappeared, her teenage sister received a series of horrifying, taunting phone calls from a man using Melissa's own phone. Over the course of 5 weeks, he called from crowded, noisy locations like Madison Square Garden. His voice calm and cruel as he admitted he had killed her and described her sexually, a form of psychological torture designed to inflict maximum pain. Then came Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old from Maine, a young mother struggling with addiction, who was last seen at a Holiday Inn Express in Hoppage in June 2010. And finally, Amber Lynn Costello, 27, a woman from North Carolina living a chaotic life, who was gone just 2 months later, in September 2010, after walking out to meet a client. They were all young, all working as online escorts, all vulnerable. And they had all been meticulously placed, almost staged along that lonely parkway, left to the mercy of the elements. The discovery sent a shockwave through the community, turning a scenic drive into a corridor of fear. But it was only the beginning. Over the next year, the search expanded, and the body count grew with horrifying regularity. More remains were discovered scattered along the same stretch of coast. There was the woman whose dismembered remains were found in 2 separate locations, miles apart, earning her the haunting nickname, Keaches. Her toddler daughter, also a victim, was found wrapped in a blanket, miles away. the remains of an unidentified man of Asian descent, dressed in women's clothing, pointed to a killer whose victimology might be broader than first imagined. By the time the search concluded, police were looking at the work of potentially one or more serial killers who had used this desolate coastline as their private dumping ground for at least 15 years, with the earliest crimes dating back to 1996. For years, the case went cold, sinking under the weight of its own complexity. The investigation was plagued by questions, interdepartmental squabbles, and a frustrating lack of progress. The prime suspect was a ghost. He was careful, almost preternaturally so. He used burner phones to contact the women, activating them in one location, using them for a single deadly purpose, and then discarding them in another, creating a scattered and confusing digital trail. He operated with what seemed to be a high degree of forensic awareness, likely learning from TV shows and news reports, leaving behind frustratingly little physical evidence. The profile suggested someone intelligent, organized, and methodical, someone who could compartmentalize their life, presenting a placid and respectable surface to the world, while hiding a chasm of depravity within. Someone who could live a normal life, completely undetected. And that is exactly who he was. Across the bay from the Gilgo Beach dump sites, in the sleepy, middle-class town of Massapequa Park, lived Rex Heuermann, the 59-year-old architect, married with 2 children, who commuted to his own firm, RH Consultants and Associates, in Manhattan every day. To his neighbors, he was a quiet, imposing figure, a tall, heavy-set man who kept to himself, whose dilapidated house stood out in the otherwise tidy neighborhood. To his colleagues, he was a skilled, knowledgeable professional. He was, by all outward accounts, utterly normal, a man hiding in plain sight. But behind this facade of suburban normalcy, a different life was being lived in the dark corners of the internet. Heuermann was allegedly a voracious consumer of violent, degrading pornography, and his Google searches became a chilling digital diary of his obsessions. He allegedly searched for terms like torture porn, raped and killed, and created over 200 searches for information on his victims, their families, and the investigation itself. He obsessively tracked news coverage, wanting to see how his work was being perceived. In one of the most telling searches of all, he allegedly typed, "Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught?" The break came when a new, multi-agency task force, formed in 2022, decided to re-examine every scrap of old evidence with fresh eyes and powerful new technology. They focused on 3 key elements. First, a witness from Amber Costello's disappearance had described the client's vehicle, a first-generation, dark green Chevrolet Avalanche. It was a detail another witness corroborated. A crucial piece of the puzzle, a deep dive into registered owners of that specific model in the area, led them to Rex Heuermann. Second, they meticulously mapped the pings from the burner phones used to contact the Gilgo 4. The data revealed a chilling, undeniable pattern. The phones were almost always used in 2 primary burner zones, the area around Heuermann's Manhattan office and the suburban neighborhood of Massapequa Park, right where Heuermann lived. The digital ghost was starting to take physical shape, but the final, irrefutable piece of the puzzle was the DNA. A single male hair had been found on the burlap used to wrap Megan Waterman's body. For years, it was an anonymous sample, its owner a mystery. But now, with Heuermann as their prime suspect, they needed his DNA for a direct comparison. They put him under 24/7 surveillance, waiting for him to slip up. And then came the pizza box. After Heuermann discarded it in a public trash can near his office, investigators quickly retrieved it and swabbed a leftover crust. The lab results were definitive. The mitochondrial DNA from the pizza crust was a match to the hair found on the victim. They had him. In July 2023, Rex Heuermann was arrested in a dramatic takedown in Midtown Manhattan, charged with the murders of Melissa, Megan, and Amber. He was later charged with Maureen's murder as well. The architect of horror was finally unmasked. But this is where the story gets even more complicated, branching into darker, more conspiratorial territory. The official reports lay out a compelling, data-driven case against Heuermann for the Gilgo 4. Yet, questions linger, and darker theories persist. The investigation was famously and bizarrely hampered for years by the then Suffolk County Police Chief, James Burke. Burke actively blocked the FBI, with its superior resources and profiling expertise, from participating in the case, a move that baffled and enraged many investigators. Burke was later arrested and served federal prison time for corruption and for viciously assaulting a man who had stolen a duffel bag from his car, a bag rumored to contain sex toys and pornography. This has led to a powerful theory. Was Burke simply arrogant and territorial? Or was he actively covering something up? Did he know the killer? Or was he, as some have whispered, connected to the very same circles of sex workers and parties, afraid of what the FBI's unblinking eye might uncover about him? And what about the other bodies? The woman known as Peaches and her child, the Asian man, the other unidentified remains. Heuermann has not been charged with their deaths. Is it possible that another killer, or killers, was also using the desolate beauty of Ocean Parkway as a dumping ground? Did one monster's hunting ground overlap with another's in a horrifying coincidence? Or is Heuermann responsible for a reign of terror far greater than anyone yet knows, his methods evolving or varying over the years? The official story of Shannon Gilbert, the woman whose disappearance started it all, remains that she died of accidental drowning in the marsh. It's a conclusion her family has never accepted, believing it to be a convenient way to close a difficult case. Was her death a tragic coincidence that inadvertently exposed a serial killer? Or was she the victim of a different crime that night, silenced before she could reveal what she saw inside that house in Oak Beach? We are left with two primary possibilities, each with its own disturbing implications. The first, and the one pursued by prosecutors, is that Rex Heuermann is the Long Island serial killer, a lone predator who lived a chillingly successful double life, a man whose quiet suburban existence was the perfect mask for the sadistic monster within. The evidence against him for the murders of the Gilgo 4 is powerful and specific. But there's a second, more unsettling thought, that Heuermann is just one piece of a larger, darker story. A story that might involve police corruption, cover-ups, and perhaps other predators who have yet to be identified, all drawn to this desolate stretch of coastline where secrets can easily be swallowed by the sand and sea. So now I turn the question to you. Based on the evidence, the damning trail of digital crumbs, the irrefutable DNA, the chilling profile of a meticulous architect, do you believe Rex Heuermann acted alone, the sole author of this long nightmare? Or do the lingering questions about the other victims, the unidentified remains, and the strange behavior of the police suggest a more complex conspiracy, a darkness that extends far beyond one man? The full truth of what happened on those lonely shores may still be buried, waiting to be unearthed. For more deep dives into the cases that reveal the hidden fractures in our world, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. The search for answers is far from over.